Hey everybody, welcome to We Run on Reruns. I'm Amanda and I'm here with my brother Eric.
How's it going, everybody? We are here with our Stranger Things podcast where we are into season 5 at this point, and we are talking about episode 3, chapter 3, the Turnbow Trap. And as we get going into this season, I'm so excited to kind of talk about some of these things because obviously this is the most recent and final season, and I think there's a lot of controversial choices that were made by the writers, or at least controversial in the fans' eyes, and I'm interested to hear what you have to think about some of those things. And I'm ready to share some of the things that I think are kind of awkward about this last season, or just, awkward about final seasons in general.
Yeah, when you say that, Eric, the first thing that's coming to my mind is some of the scenes that we see here with Hop and Eleven, because it just really struck me as, I don't remember that being part of like when Eleven is reaching into someone's mind, and then them having this painful experience. That was something that stuck out to me with this episode, which we'll get more into. And I don't know. I really haven't done a deep dive into what other people, like the specific issues that people have with these things. So
no,
I don't know,
haven't
Eric,
either.
You have more. Yeah,
I don't have like a deep dive into it. I have like a general synopsis of things that I remember hearing about, people complaining about just on social media, and out throughout the entire thing. And for what it's worth, if I remember correctly, I feel like the buzz after the first 4 episodes was largely positive.
Yeah. It was, I think it was ramping up, seeing that, having the experience of Will getting into Vecna's mind was this huge turn where it's like, wait, what now?
Yeah, and they have access both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And now that he is really standing out on his own and putting an end to this control that Joyce has wanted to have over all of his decisions.
Yeah.
And really becoming more independent in that way. Because, he's now proven to be inside of the Dark Lord's mind. So, it's time to break free of mommy. Okay, we're ready.
it's so interesting to see that, and we'll get into that as this episode breaks down. But Amanda, do you want to give us a quick synopsis on where we left off last week?
Yes. And also, guys, if you're sticking with us, if you like what we're doing here, please throw us some stars. We love 5-star ratings. That allows other people like you to find us as well, listen in, become part of this community. Just really thank you for that. As a reminder of where we left things off last week in chapter 2, we had after Holly was taken by the Demogorgon, we saw Nancy and Mike trying to access their mom's hospital room, and they did get in to talk with her about Mr. What's-It, finding out that his name is Henry. I don't think that's a coincidence.
No.
We also had 11 finding Hopper in the Upside Down, just dropping out in front of him, of all places, and discovering a massive wall together. And they also saw one of Holly's boots right outside of that wall. So that's not a great sign, but I guess a good sign that they're on the right track. We also had Dustin reconnecting with Steve and Jonathan and trying to find Hop's signal so they could locate where he's at in the Upside Down again. And finally, Robin and Will were sneaking away from Joyce so Will could use his newly discovered receiver skill to get closer to Holly. And, Robin was really encouraging him to, you got to do what you got to do. Your plan is awesome. Let's follow that plan. So they're off. And so I loved the last episode. It was really great. And definitely excited to to talk about this. And Eric, the first thing that stuck out to me was the title of this episode. I'm glad that we kind of like had more of an explanation as to where that was, because I didn't remember what Turnbow was in reference to when we started this. I don't know.
No, me neither. I saw that and I was like, the Turnbow trap. What in the world is that? I just did not remember that Derek's last name was Turnbow.
No.
Because it never really comes up again. It's all Derek after that. It's just, we just hear Derek or, delightful Derek down the line, or
punk.
There are a number of different phrasings here for Derek, but it was never about Turnbow, which is why it's very interesting that that's the title they chose to go with here. But listen, I criticize titles all the time, and that's probably the least impactful thing in these things that people care about. So
they went with the alliteration angle, the Turnbow trap.
I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah, and also something that stuck out to me is in that Hopper and 11 scene, which we'll get to, that structure that they're behind, which looks like a fallen billboard, it had Turnbow on it. And that caused me to kind of go down a rabbit hole. I was like, oh, so so his dad was like in real estate development. So that was the whole
It was apparently well-known name around the town.
Yeah.
But again, we just rewatched it, but I'd have to go back through and see, as they're in Hawkins, do we see Turnbow signs all over the place?
Right.
I feel like that did not exist, or if it did, they certainly didn't showcase it in a way that was memorable. So
no,
if that was what they were trying to get to, here's what this family does, since you've seen those signs everywhere, I missed the signs.
Same. If they were there, I didn't see them.
I'd like to go back and see if they exist, and if they do, then so be it. But otherwise, this reference was lost on me. That being said, we're going to start this one, Stranger Things Season 5, Chapter 3, Episode 3, The Turnbow Trap. We're going to start this one talking about the 11 and Hopper story side of this, since that's how this show opens. And what we open up to as this show is beginning is Hopper stabbing the wall with his hunting knife, just trying to, fight his way through it. And then a few yards over from him, 11 is sitting there trying to use her powers to just pull the wall apart and basically create her own doorway onto the other side of the wall. Neither of them are having much success. And so 11 is saying, hey, I just need to refuel my battery. And Hopper's saying, listen, you have a full battery. You just had one. You did no damage to this thing. This isn't the way to do it. Maybe we can go back. And she's looking through his bag and finding this can of beef jerky and saying, is this all you got? And he's like, well, I was packing for one. And I'm like, yeah, 11, chill. Okay. You just showed up here with no plan. He came in ready to go with one.
I don't know if I've ever seen beef jerky in a can. That stuck out to me. That must have been a thing in the 80s.
I don't recall it in that format. It looked like it was a soda for a second.
That's what I thought it was too. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, as they're arguing over whether or not Hopper should have packed more food or had different options, we see from a very distant angle through all this haze that there are trucks starting to approach the wall. And as we get a zoom in on this as the viewer, we can see that these trucks have got some sort of sonar or radar situation mounted to the top of them. And as they are approaching, 11 is starting to feel it. And so something from that is bothering her. And as the trucks approach the wall, they get out. The soldiers are getting out saying, hey, listen, there's no sign of the freak. We're going to do reconnaissance. And to them, reconnaissance means, hey, pee break, and you guys can just hang out and smoke cigarettes like there's nobody here. So they decide, hey, they're going to just chill. Meanwhile, they've got this sonar thing pumping. And
Yes.
Elle is clearly disrupted by it. And Hopper has found the time in between cutscenes here to get 11 behind this billboard situation where she is now laying down behind this like heavy, like almost like a
concrete
phone
wall.
No, it's like a phone pole, like that's been tipped over.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's not quite that, but it's something really thick, heavy wood.
Yeah.
That she's lying behind. That then this billboard is kind of like next to.
All right, Eric, I have to say something here
Yeah?
really quick.
Jump
I
in.
mean, this scene to me, when they zoomed out at one point, and you just see the military guys, like these soldiers, are just kind of taking a pee break, like by this wall. They have their Hummer. They zoom out, and you see the only thing that's like the only other obstruction is this billboard.
Yeah.
There was literally nothing else there. And I'm like, you'd think they'd maybe look behind it?
Like
they suspect
this did come.
someone is there. They're like, where could they be? I'm like, behind the only thing that's there. I don't know. It was weird.
Like the recon of it all, not great. And this is kind of where you see in all movies or TV shows, it's like the guy hunting our heroes is like, don't know what could have happened here. Kind of like in the 80s, there would always be like a fight sequence where there'd be our one hero fighter and 12 bad guys, and they would all approach the guy one at a time and fight him.
Right.
Where if they all just ran at once, you could probably overpower the guy pretty easily. But
what's the fun in that?
But instead, you send them one at a time. Yeah, like you're on this recon mission. There's one billboard. Maybe you double around the back just to check. Yeah.
We hear something. Where could it be? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. So, nevertheless, they're during their break here. Hopper's got 11 down, and then he's kind of bouncing up to the billboard and looking through as there is like a couple of holes that he can see through to the other side. At which point, he is seeing that the guy taking the pee break on the wall has found Hopper's knife, which he stabbed into the wall. And so they start turning that sonar around, and suddenly Elle makes a noise, and the whole group is now focused on this billboard. Duh, the only place it could be. And they essentially start approaching slowly, only for Hopper to just start firing through some of the holes, taking out one of the guys, and the whole fracas is on at this point as the battle has now begun between Hopper all by himself on one side and a crew of slowly approaching soldiers on the other side.
Yeah, because 11 is basically having like a seizure on the other side of the wall. Like she is in like
no state.
Clearly like completely out of it. Like it's rough.
Now, to Hopper's credit, he's able to get back. He gets behind 11 where here's what happened. He takes the first shots, takes out one of the guys. The rest of the military men pull up their guns. Hopper then jumps over this heavy log low to the ground. And as the soldiers all make Swiss cheese out of this billboard, nothing hits them because they are low and they are behind this much heavier piece of equipment. It's at this point that as the soldiers approach even closer, Hopper takes 2 grenades out of his backpack because, of course,
lucky,
and then chucks them over his head, over the thing, lands them right next to the guys. Kabloom! Everybody's dead except for the one remaining soldier. So at this point, Hopper is at maybe there was 2. Hopper is able
I think there were a couple, but not many.
Hopper is able to, at this point, shoot out the sonar. And
Yes.
this then activates 11 into the battle sequence, at which point this one guy, their lead guy who's left, is dealt with by 11. She's flinging him into the truck. As he's starting to get to his feet, she's opening the truck door, smacking it into his face, things like that, only for him to be knocked out. And the two of them, Hopper and 11, are left standing at the end of this battle. Yeah. We then have a bit of time off from this sequence, only to then find 11 and Hopper are now back at the junkyard that we have seen a number of times, but the upside down version of that junkyard.
That's right. Yes.
And so they're hanging out outside that bus that looks very different, obviously, now. And they're talking about
back at the bus,
what they can do, what sort of information they can get from this guy, as we find out that he is handcuffed, unconscious, inside the bus. The lead guy.
Yes.
So they have the soldier, and they start talking about, well, we can get information out of him. We can figure out what this wall is and all this stuff. And Hopper is, these are 11's ideas. Hopper is discrediting a lot of this, saying, listen, you know, I spent a lot of time in a Russian prison.
Here we go, Hopper. Yep.
Well,
I get it. And of it.
Hopper's going through this whole thing. He's been in the military. He understands this. They had him in this Russian prison for weeks, and he still never broke. The idea that we're going to get this guy to break in the next hour is just not real. Like, we don't have that amount of time. We don't have 2 weeks hanging out here. So this is not a realistic option. He's like, maybe we can get some, like, details on their pathing, but that's about it. So, as we see, they essentially make a compromise, as she references COM promise, halfway happy, which is a reference from seasons ago. And they decide to compromise on the plan, where he's going to try to go get some information about their movement, about their pathing, and she is going to also try to find out some extra information.
I really didn't get Hopper's hesitation here to utilize 11 skills, because it's like, you just said it. You only have an hour. Like, why not just use the special weapon that you have here, 11, to I don't know. It was a little bit strange. Like,
I didn't have as big a problem with it. I don't think it came as a, let's not utilize 11 skills, as much as it was, listen, you're asking for us to just talk to this guy and get all this information, and the odds of me being able to interrogate him to give you all the information you want, like classified information, that's just not reasonable. And so 11 is not exactly acting reasonably at this point. She's running through, she's, even small things like arguing about not having the right food, and now we're here and it's, well, we should just be able to get the information out of him. And maybe she can, but Hopper, to his knowledge, is like, hey, listen, I can't get that. And so they compromise, and maybe with her help, they can. So what they're able to do is Hop goes in and starts interrogating. And then after his interrogation, where they don't get a whole lot of info, but Hop does appeal to the idea that, listen, I know who you are. You're not a grunt like I was. You are special forces. Like, I could smell you guys from a mile away, and knows that this is not just some random soldier, but this guy is obviously well trained, and he's got a different mindset than the rest of the soldiers that are out here. And then he turns to him and says, who's Dr. K? And he's like, I don't know who you're talking about. To which he's like, well, you told us already. Because while I'm talking to you here, 11's inside your mind, like
Oh,
already
boy.
going through everything. And this is where things get a little wild. But let's just hold those comments for a moment. 11 is inside the mind of the soldier while Hop is talking to him. And she is finding that there is a Dr. K and there is a base in the Upside Down, and it's near Gable Ridge Road. And then she is able to go through this while Hop continues his interrogation, and this soldier is getting increasingly more in pain from the interrogation and 11's presence in his mind. 11 is now in the base, walking through, seeing Dr. K go through this door, trying to find out, hey, there's this other door that's locked. What's behind this door? What is this big vault door? What's behind it? And the soldier is saying things like, listen, she wants the freak. That's all I know. I don't know anything about this door. I don't know what's behind it.
And I kind of believe him here.
I do too. I don't know that he knows for sure.
I don't think he knows.
But
yeah.
As 11, in his mind, approaches this door and tries to rip it open with her powers, she hears the same sonar, and she refers to it now as kryptonite. So she hears this kryptonite and knows, oh, there's a lot of it on the other side. They have to have someone who's super powerful. They have someone back there. They must have him. They have Vecna. Because as this soldier passes out, Hop has now run across to where 11 is, and they're having this conversation about the kryptonite and who must be behind this door. 11 hasn't seen it. She doesn't know it, but she knows that there's a lot of this sonar on the other side, which means they're keeping someone's powers at bay, which means it must be Vecna.
Yeah, and what struck me here is seeing 11 use her powers in that space too. I don't think we'd seen that before. Where she was in someone else's mind and then also using her powers, right?
No, so this is where things definitely get a little weird, right? She, as you said, is in this guy's mind, and now he is feeling significant pain from this, which no one else has ever experienced before. She's also using her powers in this mind space, which we have not seen before. She's also able to actively communicate back to Hopper, who's not next to him. Now, I don't know if she had a radio. Did she have a radio with her?
She had a radio.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know that she's been able to like speak while in a tub, but like holding a radio and actively communicating through a radio while in this seems a little bit extra. So there are definitely some, we're going to take liberties with what 11 can and can't do here and get this moving forward.
Yeah, the pain thing, I'm almost thinking, was she inflicting that like on purpose? Like, does she have the ability to inflict pain while she's in someone's mind? And usually she just is purposefully flying under the radar. I don't know.
So here's where I can go with the powers part. We have seen her piggyback into Max's mind from Vecna and then have a fight with Vecna, which uses her powers.
And
so
didn't do anything to Max, right?
No. So I do believe the idea of using powers in this state has been showcased.
That's fair, actually, Eric. Totally forgot about that scene with Vecna. And yes, okay,
That's how we forget about that scene.
I didn't forget about that. I just forgot that because you know what was different in this scene? And also, she started in the black space and then was transported. So I guess it really is similar to that shot. You're right. That was another moment where she went to the black space, ended up in the memory, and it is very similar. Yeah, great point.
So that part of it, I don't have as huge a problem with. To me, the bigger issue was the communication back, which is a small thing, right? She's been able to speak. But she's usually in a tub or she's like in a meditative state. and she is not also, while in this space, using her hands to like pull on a radio button, which I know is a small thing, but I feel like that's the bigger thing. That and the pain that he's experiencing. No one has experienced pain when she's been inside their mind that I can recall.
If anything, it's always more like they're unaware, and that's part of the thing.
That is
they
part
don't
of the
even know
thing. Yeah.
When she's in, and you know what, Eric? Another thing that's striking me now is like, what was the big deal about getting the tub with all the salt if she can just sit there with the blindfold and do this? Well, anyway, like,
so there's definitely been times where she's been able to get into this state with like the white noise going,
scrambled TV, but she doesn't have any of that here.
I don't know. That's the other piece.
And I'm realizing now, but also, Eric, is this the first time that we're seeing her do this in the Upside Down?
Yes. So I don't know if there's some
that
components
has other
to
impacts.
That. Yes.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to even remember if we've seen have we seen 11 in the Upside Down before?
Have we seen 11 in the Upside Down? Well, I mean, yeah. Well, she's been like when she was with Vecna in his like.
But that was in some. But she physically was still in California. Yeah, think about that.
That's a good point.
I guess we mostly just
see her in the black space.
I don't think we've actually seen 11 physically in the Upside Down until now.
Right.
So, does that have an impact on her abilities? Maybe.
Okay.
And I'm willing to write a lot of this stuff off. I'm a very nice person.
Yeah, same. Listen.
Like, to me,
it's all for the joy of watching the show. It's all just interesting things that I'm realizing now, really on the rewatch too, as we're kind of scrutinizing more of these details. I'm like, wait a second.
So
how the heck? But you know what? I'm willing to roll with it.
The big three components are like communicating back to Hopper, being harmful in this guy's mind, and also using the powers, right? I feel like we can check off powers. We've seen that used before. We know that she can communicate back, but how is she doing the also like using hands outside of this? That's the part that strikes to be difficult for me. And as far as the violence to his mind, it's plausible that she could do that. We've just never seen that happen.
Well, I guess that when we talk about have we seen her in the Upside Down, again, that scene with her and Max in the dance hall, but
she physically was still in California or Nevada or whatever.
I see what you're saying. Right.
Yeah, yeah, there's a difference.
There from,
we've seen her in the Upside Down, but we've seen her there like while her body is elsewhere.
Okay.
Her physical body is now in the Upside Down.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
There you go.
Okay. Hey, bringing in the facts here.
Hey, I try to point things out when I see them. Okay, but that's really it for the 11 and Hopper storyline. So we know we're going to leave it with they believe that Vecna is behind this door. They know that there's a base there. They know that it is by Gable Ridge Road. And they know about this person, Dr. K, who wants the freak. And that's all that they know. And that's about where we're going to leave that story. So we're now going to get into the meat and potatoes of this with our next segment.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into the Hawkins group storyline. And this is where we see Joyce finding Will and Robin on the road on their bikes. Yikes. And she is pissed.
Yikes.
Yeah, Robin's like, you think she saw us?
Yes.
There's like no one else out there on this desolate road. Yeah, she saw you. Yeah, Eric, this scene to me... Joyce is talking to Robin, first of all, as though Will isn't even there.
Yeah.
And also talking to Robin like she abducted poor little Will. Like she was like abducting her little baby. I'm like, what is happening? This is wild.
I just wrote in my notes, Joyce speaks to Robin about Will in front of Will. Like,
yes,
she speaks to Robin
about
him
yes.
in front of him. Like,
and little Will's in the back
and
seat.
Will is just sitting there, like suddenly
like,
he's 5 years old again, and he has no say in this story. And then he decides, no, he's speaking for himself all of a sudden. Good for Will.
Yeah, and he's like, you can talk to me, right? I'm not a kid anymore. And he calls her plan safe and tells her that it sucked. Flat out. And you know what? I have a great plan, and it worked. He got into the hive mind, and now he knows Vecna's plan is to take more children. Holly was just the beginning, and he even knows his next target now. He does not plan on taking orders from Joyce anymore, and she's a bit stunned by this. She's kind of like, oh, okay. And doesn't really speak back to him about this. She just is, I think, realizing where she's been at. Like, I feel like after all of the trauma of him being taken from the house, all of the guilt that they talk about later in this segment, it's all just built up in her system.
I was going to say, there's a lot more to this conversation later on, and we can kind of summarize some more there, but it was very good, I'll say here, to see Will stand up on his own 2 feet and say, no, like, this is not how this is going to go. I am not just going to be, like, left in bubble wrap on the sidelines. Like, let's go. Good for you, Will.
And then, that's right. But then we go back to the radio tower where we see Jonathan, Steve, and Dustin pulling up at first, and then Nancy, Mike, Lucas also arrive. And love how Dustin is carrying that storyline through of just saying, yeah, it was in a bike crash, no big deal. Okay. Steve is kind of side-eyeing him like, okay, buddy, we're going to stick with that. Yeah, we are. Robin is then calling them inside, like, guys, we actually have some, strategizing to do here. And, that's where we see Will telling the group about Derek and how Derek is the next target. And he said that when, he's learned when he's close enough, like that receiver theory that Robin had pointed out, he is then can connect back with the hive mind, and sees right into Vecna's mind. And he was actually in Derek's mind. And Steve's kind of like, whoa, hold up. So you're in Derek's mind, or you're in Vecna's mind? You're in Vecna's mind through. And he's like, I was Vecna, but inside Derek's mind. So because Vecna can access other people's minds, he is now like piggybacking onto that. And so there's this whole layering effect, which is kind of insane to think about. But I like it. And so,
I'm here for it. For sure.
Yeah.
I think
cool concept.
I also want to just throw out, I know early on, and I know I mentioned it last week, some of the things of Stranger Things that I've always liked are that they show us these things and they don't tell us these things.
Yeah.
And
right.
The other thing that I always love is that when the group comes together and like shares information. So this is definitely more of a telling what's going on, which I don't love as much, but it is the group coming together from the previous episode with all of the individual information that they have. And sometimes we never really get to see that sharing of information. We just kind of assume that they all told each other in this time that we didn't get to watch. And now we are watching them literally break down, here's all the information, and how some people, like Steve is genuinely questioning, like, wait a minute, how does that happen? And there's an explanation given for what the best they can come up with is. And whether they're right or wrong is kind of irrelevant. This is what they've come up with. And, you only have so much information to work with, so let's just roll with it. And I'm here for it. I'm here for the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And Nancy is also sharing what she's found out is that she knows that Vecna is not appearing all Vecna-y, all like wrinkled up and his, skin torn off. He is appearing as Henry Creel. And this is helping him, obviously, to gain their trust. Not sure the kids would have as easily gone off with him if he had the Vecna look.
No.
I'm thinking no.
No. It would be very difficult to look at that guy and say, hey, I'm going to save you from the monsters. Sir, you are the monsters. What are we talking about? No thanks.
Not to judge a book by its cover, but yeah. So they're hatching this plan to save Derek, and gotta say, this plan, it's a little sketchy. They're basically creating a plan to abduct him and take him from his home and bring him to a farm. That's where we're at. And I just kind of cracked up watching this again because it's like the more that they're talking about this, and Steve and Jonathan are both kind of like, I don't know about that. We could just end up getting arrested for abducting people. I don't know. This sounds a little nuts. Home invasion,
genuinely,
that whole thing.
Genuinely loved the moment when Jonathan was like, so Mom, you're okay with just kidnapping a child? And she's like, well, it's kind of like one of those moments where the viewer is like, yeah, this is you're just kidnapping people now, guys. Like, this is not okay. Yeah. And she then goes, well, listen, now is not the time to be safe. And kind of looks at Will. Right. And it's like, yes, okay, there you go.
She's handed the reins over to Will. It becomes apparent here she's fully on board. And I thought that was interesting. And Mike is then pulling out his D&D characters, and he's kind of mapping out this plan, saying that really one of the keys here is recruiting someone that the family trusts to knock out the family with maybe some drugs, which I guess, Robin apparently has access to. And they're just going to put a tracker into the Demogorgon when it comes to take Derek. So basically, they're going to take the family out of the house, shoot a tracker into the Demogorgon because they're going to be laying in wait. And Steve is just kind of shaking his head like, this sounds nuts.
And just to be clear, this was a lot of Dustin's plan, because Mike's plan was, listen, we can prevent him from getting to Derek now. We can kidnap Derek and keep him away. But that doesn't get us any closer to finding Hopper, any closer to finding 11, any closer to finding Vecna. Like, we're still just slowing down the process. So how do we get closer? And that's when they've got this whole concept of knocking out the family, putting a tracker in play so they can follow a Demogorgon, essentially.
Yeah, because, keeping Derek safe, okay, that's great, but what about the next kid that he goes after, the next kid? Like, we still don't know where Holly is, So then we see Erica in science class talking about wormholes, talking about how, well, she's clearly also the only one who's engaged in this classroom, and the teacher's
I feel for Mr. Clark here.
Anyone else? Yeah. Is there anyone else awake or out there at all? I guess, yes, Erica, I will pick on you again. This reminds me of Monica in her classroom.
Yeah.
I know. Pick me. Okay.
It's like, gosh. Monica, you asked the question. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know that Erica asked the question about wormholes, but it is very cool to see this. And in all honesty, listen, this is a rewatch. We know where this is all going. Very, of course, appropriate for Mr. Clark to kind of breach a theory and a good way to, again, show the viewers something without it being told to us, per se, in another way, like having one of the kids just come up with this idea. Now, we've seen it once already, so we have an idea.
Yeah, and Erica's talking about how a wormhole allows matter to travel through galaxies or dimensions without crossing the space between.
And of course,
I wonder
this is
why
all
we're
theoretical.
Talking about this.
It's all theoretical.
Right. Yes. But then she sees Mike and Lucas tapping out the window outside the classroom, signaling, hey, we need you. So she excuses herself from the classroom to talk to them, and she is mad. Because listen, this is her favorite classroom. She does not want to be missing out. Love it. She sets a timer on her watch. She's got to get back. I mean, I don't know what Mr. Clark is even doing in that classroom when she's not there. I mean, I guess just hosting nap time. So Lucas and Mike are telling her that they need her help to get into the Turnbow house. But she's explaining to them, listen, Tina and I, we are enemies now. I do not like her. And he's like, well, listen, this is a good time to patch up that friendship because Vecna has Holly. He's now planning to take Derek, which she doesn't really care about. But, they do end up convincing Erica that she needs to help them.
They convince her because Mike's essentially like, listen, we need to get Holly back, first of all. And second of all, if you actually do this for us, you won't have to worry about Tina ever again. She's never going to want to talk to you ever. So,
no.
And she's like, oh, why didn't you lead with that? And it's like, well, there you go.
Yeah,
okay.
She has the opportunity to do some damage here, which we see shortly. So we learn now that Robin has also been bribing a receptionist with treats to see Vicky, pretending that someone in the hospital is her nana, and she knows
seems
that
reasonable. Seems reasonable.
A giant stash of benzos. I think this was an 80s thing. Just the little cabinet in the hospital room. Just unlocked, fully stocked with drugs. Like, I don't know. This was nuts. And I would, if there's anyone listening out there who, has had experience in the medical field, back in the 80s, would love to hear. Is this really how it was? Was it just that, loosey-goosey with the drugs?
I'm willing to bet that there were definitely time periods where it wasn't like you just, people knew, oh, well, that's like, we don't touch that. That's where all the drugs are. And now, I'm sure it got taken advantage of somewhere along the lines. And now all of a sudden, restraints have been put on all those things.
Well, so and they did make a point of saying that nurse was a bit lax. So it's not like they were saying that, okay, there's a nurse that's kind of, cutting some corners here. So doesn't really care. But either way, Robin knows where the stuff is at. So Will and Robin are in this hospital kind of darting behind doors to hide from Vicky because Robin is avoiding her. They're supposed to go to Enzo's that night. She's gonna have to miss their date, which seems to be a theme with Enzo's. I guess they get a lot.
Nobody gets to actually go to Enzo's.
No. Yeah. So she's kind of avoiding her at all costs because she knows if Vicky spots her, they're gonna end up in this fight and it's gonna be this endless conversation. And Will ends up asking how she knew that Vicky wanted to date her because Will does end up coming out and saying, so, what was it like kissing her, or like asks her about the kiss or something like that, which then she's like, I knew it was you, that mushroom haircut. No one else has a mushroom haircut like that. He's like, yeah, it is a little bit dated. But even at that point for Will, which, hey, Will, you know what? That thing comes back in the 90s full force. So you just stick with
You're
that.
fine. Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But
I know a lot of guys with that haircut.
It was interesting that he's asking, like, how did you know that Vicky wanted to go on a date? Like, and she's like, listen, there's just signals, and it just becomes obvious. And it's one of those things because it would be, I can understand. I mean, I've never been in that scenario, but I can understand the difficulty in trying to figure that out.
Yes, right. Like it's stressful enough when you're, I would say, when you're dating in the more conventional sense, when you're dating the opposite gender, let alone, and I don't know if conventional is even the right word, but especially now.
Traditional?
But it's just
heterosexual.
I don't know. Either way, when you're dating the opposite gender, heterosexual, like it's stressful enough. So, right. Being able to navigate that space, especially in the 80s, it must have been really, really challenging because dating at all is challenging. So it's, I did like that moment between the two of them. But yeah, then they do see the open drug cabinet, which they're just able to stock up right in that room. So I guess they don't need to find Robin's fake nana. They're just able to grab the drugs really quick, load up a backpack, and they're off.
Easy.
Then we're in a scene seeing Murray giving Steve supplies to use and the group. So he has the bullets for Nancy, got some lighter fluid, water balloons. I feel like Lucas always gets stuck with like the funniest weapon, which we'll see. I mean, there was a purpose to the water balloons. They fill it up with the lighter fluid, but it's just funny to me. And then there was like a CPR dummy, spark plugs, and Dustin's all like, wait, just spark plugs? Like, it's like where's the rest of my stuff here? And Murray reminds him, listen, kid, I'm not Santa. They have a back and forth there. And Murray,
I really, really like this because they needed like spoilers and all sorts of stuff to like make this car faster. And I just wrote down Dustin's tone. And it's not, and like he's saying to Murray, hey, like it wasn't a Christmas list. And Murray's like, you know what? It is a Christmas list because the fact that I can get anything in here at all is a Christmas miracle. And it's like,
right?
Yeah, Dustin, like, what are you saying right now? Like, this guy is able to smuggle in all these things that you were hoping for in less than a day. Mm-hmm. You're asking for the moon. Like, you know what? You're just going to have to make it work sometimes. I had a real...
Yeah, Dustin is not overly likable here. Yeah.
He's coming off real poor. And then he goes from this to this back and forth with Steve, which, listen, he solves the problem, but I'm not thrilled with the way he did it either. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Well, then we see Steve and Dustin also still bickering. So Dustin is carrying this theme through. Steve is trying to modify the van to make it lighter. And that's when Dustin, as he's looking over at Steve's car, cue the Ferris Bueller's Day Off music, like that moment.
Yeah.
He's looking over at his car like, lighter, you say, is what you can see. His wheels are turning, getting up on top of Steve's car. And Steve is like, whoa, like, hold your horses there. Does not want him touching his baby. But Dustin is already working with the drill, puncturing a hole into the roof because it's like, yeah, we need a lighter vehicle. Well, here we have one right here. Let's use this instead.
And a lighter vehicle that can move faster. And I mean, to Steve's credit, he was making the van a lighter vehicle because it needed to be able to go faster, and he was removing things from it. This is also a scientific way to do it. It's just a little bit more brute force. But like, genuinely, car will go faster if it's lighter weight. Let's take some of the stuff out. He's talking about removing the windshield washer fluid and things that they don't necessarily need right out of the gate. And it's like, yeah, like that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is what Dustin did.
Yeah, I didn't hate Dustin's move here. I feel like it did kind of
but it's just the way that he says it.
But it's the tone.
It's the tone. It's Dustin's tone.
Oh, I miss Eddie. All right. Well, now we see Murray not believing Nancy that she could shoot that tracker into the Demogorgon without destroying the tracker. And she's like, well, let me prove it to you. So they're carrying like bags of gravel. Murray and Jonathan are carrying these bags out so that Nancy can have some target practice with the tracker and prove that it will work. And this is where we also see Murray kind of talking, not quietly, to Jonathan rather, about, because he handed him the tape that, as Eric pointed out, you observed there that you knew that that's where the ring was.
Yeah.
I was not putting that together at the time. I was a little dense there. But yeah, it's the ring in there. So we know in this scene, he's kind of asking Jonathan without overtly saying it, dude, why haven't you proposed yet? Like, what's the holdup here? The death of a loved one, it's perfect. This is the right time. Life is delicate. Moments are fleeting. These moments are precious. Like, this is the stuff of fate. Take this moment and embrace it. Just, and Nancy just keeps turning around like, guys, would you just shut up? Like, I'm trying to do a task here. Like, Nancy is just like driven, just do the task. She does not want to hear them talking at all. I guess Nancy needs silence in this moment. So yeah, we see her, Nancy's shooting the gun into this bag. It works. The tracker is fine. And it's like, well, hopefully, I mean, I guess my thought was, we don't really know. We've debated back and forth about how well these creatures even take bullets. Like, do they take bullets? Do they just bounce off of them? Like, what is their flesh really made of? How is this going to work? I think that would be my biggest concern is, would this even impact and penetrate the skin?
You know, I've never thought that the bullets bounced off of them. I just felt like they didn't do damage. Like that these are creatures that do not require like that sort of system, like blood system or whatever. Unless it's in
the flower.
Unless you hit it in the flower, double bonus points. Yeah, unless that. Like, and even in that scenario, like you still got to apparently be like right up close to it or something. I don't know exactly how that shakes out. That being said,
well,
I never debated the idea that would be a thing. My concern was, okay, great. You've got one of these trackers. You blast it through a shotgun. It still survives. What's to say that you can do it twice? Like now you've weakened the tracker. Like, can you get it to go a second time? And that to me is the concern. I would have never tested it. I would have just done it and hoped for the best. Because, I don't know. It feels like you're weakening the tracker. You've already now shot it once, and it's already questionable if it can handle it the first time. But
that's a great point. Yeah.
But
because that's their only tracker. It's not like they have multiple trackers to be using here. Right. Well, luckily it worked.
Yeah, thankfully it does, and it's fine.
But then we also, just in case those of you out there are dense like me, we do have the on-the-nose moment where we see Jonathan opening up said cassette tape and actually looking at said ring.
Yeah, for those of us who didn't know, let's show everybody. Here it is.
Yeah,
this is what's there.
Oh, okay, I get it now. Right. So, then we see glorious, delightful Derek, rather, playing Nintendo at home. And Eric, I was trying to figure out what that game was.
What was this first? It's like
disdainful?
No, it's something else. We'll get there.
Disgruntled?
No.
Yeah. Well, Derek, dubious. I don't know. So Derek is at home. He's playing Nintendo. Tina, his sister, is marching into his room saying, "Hey, it's time for dinner." Well, he's not listening, so she just takes his game and runs out of his room, which, Eric, I feel like we've had moments like this growing up. It's like, you know what? I don't know if I took the game.
I was going to say, I don't think there's any way that you would have taken the game out. You would have just hit the power button and run.
Hit the button.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, don't hurt the game. That's crazy.
Yeah, you don't need to take the game.
Just hit the power button. That's so much easier to do and so much faster.
That's harsh. There were not always save points. Oh, that would be just cruel. You could be at like the end of an entire game, and it's like, wow,
kids don't know the struggle today.
Ooh,
games players just respawn wherever they are. Like this, just listen. There's different gaming style back in the 80s.
Well, it's dinner time at the Turnbow house, and Erica shows up at the doorbell right at that moment with a pie, and she is apologizing and fake crying all over the place, and Tina's like, all right, come on in. So then we see Steve, Dustin outside in the car, and the rest of them are in the van further down the street. And so we know now in this pie that Erica is carrying, well, that's all the drugs. So basically, all those drugs are ground up, and, and we see the dad eating. He's like, wow, this has like a special flavor to it, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, that's the flavor of you being, you're about to pass out.
No. So, it was nutmeg.
It was nutmeg, yes. Well, the entire family, except Tina, is eating it because little Tina, who probably weighs like, 100 pounds, is watching her calories. And they're Tina and Erica start bickering back and forth. Tina's saying like, hey, you just want me to be fat, don't you? That's why you brought over this pie. And Ken, the dad, gets up. He's trying to leave the table because he's kind of slurring his words. Derek is calling him drunk. I mean, Derek is a little like punk here. Like he is being just nasty. Yeah. And I'm like, are these the drugs or is he just always like this to his parents? Because
no, he's like this. I think he's like this all the time to his parents.
Wow. Like his dad literally falls on his face and Derek is cracking up like a pure psychopath. I mean, that's psychotic behavior. Yeah, his mom then passes out. He's still laughing. I'm like, what? This is
I don't believe any of that is the drug. I think he is just one of those kids who is wildly disrespectful and has no boundaries whatsoever. Like he's able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. Nobody holds him accountable for anything, and that's where we're at with him.
Yeah, this is, you know what, Vecna, you might just want to take this one, actually, but I do end up actually enjoying Derek's character as we get to know him a little bit better, but maybe, I don't know, maybe some Vecna ends up wearing off on him and he becomes a better person. Let's just hope that that's what happens in this story, but either way, here we see him laughing uncontrollably right up until the moment that he falls face down into his own pie because he's been eating and the drugs have also kicked in for him. The only one that isn't passed out is Tina. So Erica is like, hey, got something for you, Tina, and comes up from behind her with a giant syringe, which I feel like Erica was secretly hoping that this was the way that she could take Tina out, because she looked like she took way too much pleasure in stabbing the syringe full of drugs into Tina's neck. So now the entire family is passed out. And this is where we see the whole group coming inside the house, putting like sleeping I guess like pillowcases like over all their faces, wrapping them up in sheets. Like they have a way too much experience doing this. I don't know, it was very methodical. And basically preparing the house for the Demogorgon's arrival, installing what first I was describing as Home Alone type
trap. That's exactly what I said. I said this is a Home Alone montage, watching tripwires and spike traps and water balloons arming up. Like they're getting ready for this whole thing. Although I will say when Steve chainsaws through the floor here and they set the barbed wire trap, I was like, you know, I didn't realize they were going to kidnap the family and destroy their entire house.
Destroy their house! That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, okay, now we're taking this next level. This is Home Alone on steroids. We're now, Steve with the chainsaw, hilarious. Just cutting right through that room. Where did they get this barbed wire? And how
they got the barbed wire from Murray.
Oh, that much?
They had a giant spool of it for sure.
Okay. Oh my God.
So
well, this was not.
They had a significant spool of barbed wire from Murray, and that barbed wire then they like drew out and like made it a big just mess of crazy.
So Eric, I have a question for you here because they just kind of came upon this chainsaw.
Yes.
What was the plan?
I think they had all those pickaxes and stuff to like bust through.
Oh, okay.
Like that was my thought process. And then I think Steve saw because I was thinking the same thing. Like they were all getting all of these things to like break through. And then Steve kind of sees this chainsaw up on the wall and just makes it real easy.
I guess so. Well, yeah, that family, they have a lot of work ahead of them. So to repair that house. But they have bigger problems right now. So
I was trying to figure out, how did they get the rug to stay where it was? Did they tape it down?
I mean, they must have. They didn't.
Because like that rug would not just.
It was like perfectly. Yeah.
They drew out the lines as to where it would be, and it was right to the edges of the rug.
Plank.
No,
it would have fallen right through.
It would have just fallen right through the gap. Now, I don't know if they duct taped the rug to the ground. I never saw that. I was looking for it. Otherwise, that rug is magical. Just levitated there with no repercussions whatsoever. Nothing underneath it to hold it up.
No, I also like that they then, because they had this moment with Steve and Dustin back out in the car where they make fun of the fact that they have this giant like satellite looking thing on the top of the car. He's like, well, we're not exactly like we're sticking out here. This is not inconspicuous.
No.
Like we are.
No, it is not.
Very obvious. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. Like anyone even close to this house is going to wonder what is happening here. Hopefully none of the neighbors are looking outside. So we also have this scene with Will apologizing to Joyce for being a jerk because he's feeling, as Sweet Will does, just guilty about that moment. But she's really saying, listen, you don't have to apologize. She is then apologizing and coming to terms with the fact that the night he disappeared, like, this is still sticking with her. She carries a lot of guilt about that. She did not know her 11-year-old son was missing for 8 whole hours. She was watching TV, drinking some wine, like having a fine night, not knowing. And yeah, I could see how that would be completely traumatic for a parent. It's like, and that just it's like, what if I had looked? And all of those what ifs that build up. So now it's like she's just been trying to make up for that. Like, I'm never going to let him out of my sight again. You know, that's where she is still been at. And I think not realizing that, oh, wait, I don't need to be constantly on him anymore, you know?
And let's also point out there is a transition here, just so we're clear, like all these traps and stuff are getting set up, but this conversation is happening at the barn.
Thank you.
Yes, Robin, Joyce, Will, and I think Erica are all at the barn with
Erica's at the barn, yes.
with the Turnbows as they are sleeping unconsciously.
Right. Yeah. Erica must have left with them, with the group, to go back to the barn as well. And just so we're all clear that this conversation between Joyce and Will isn't happening while in the house.
while they're laying out barbed wire. Like that would be a little weird. No, they're holding the captives.
Right. And Joyce is also saying here that she's not convinced that Robin will look out for him, right? So back with Steve and Dustin, they are seeing outside of the Turnbow house, the lights on the street start to go wild. They know the Demogorgon is getting closer, and then all of the lights on the outside of the house also start going nuts. So we're then inside the house in Derek's room, and the Demogorgon, well, it's just popping right through that ceiling, just like it did in Holly's room, and it is massive again. Like, he sent out the daddy Demogorgon here, and it is looming over the bed. And Eric, did you notice the blanket on Derek's bed? Did you see it?
Oh, it was blue. It had like a yellow thing. What was it?
It was a He-Man blanket.
Oh, was it? I didn't notice.
Yes!
I didn't notice.
Yes! There's a Masters of the Universe blanket right on Derek's
I'm sure I had one of those, but I don't think it was that one.
I think so. And, the Demogorgon is a little bit upset because Demo finds a CPR dummy thing. That's what I was calling it, because it looked like, one of those CPR like torsos just under the covers, and he is crushing it. And then Lucas comes out from like the closet with water balloons. And I'm like, okay.
As Lucas does.
I mean, Lucas, I guess he's graduated from the slingshot, although I still am standing by my thought that Lucas took out that one Demogorgon with his slingshot. But anyway, Lucas throwing the water balloons.
He's also
that
the
are
bait
filled with
here,
lighter fluid.
Because he's like the athlete, so he's going to have to run.
That's right. So it is coming out and of Derek's room, getting hit in the head with that plank that they put on the ceiling that had nails on it. He is then chasing Lucas right into that floor trap with the rug over it, falling through the carpet. through the floor. And then Mike is then hitting this thing with his axe because it's trying to crawl up through the hole. Because remember, this thing is like 10 feet tall. So it's probably like just able to stand on the ground and still be through the ceiling. But yeah, Mike is just whacking it with the axe, but it is then falling into the barbed wire. So then Nancy and Jonathan, who are downstairs, have the opportunity. Nancy can then shoot it with the gun that has that tracker in it. She shoots it. Jonathan sets it on fire. He throws, I don't know what that was, like some type of firecracker or something at it.
They had firecrackers, but they were also behind the bar. So I think he had maybe like set up a Molotov where he had like some fire on it because they already had lighter fluid all over it from the water balloons. Right. They needed a flame.
Right.
The sparklers were certainly part of that whole situation, but I couldn't figure it out either exactly what Jonathan was throwing.
And also, so Nancy is trying to then reload the gun so she can keep shooting it, I guess. And Jonathan's like, they don't have time, but I'm thinking, wasn't that like they finished their plan? Like they were shooting it with the tracker and it was going to run off. Like what was Nancy's, like what were they thinking? That they were going to kill it?
I was going to say Nancy trying to reload didn't make sense because you're not going to kill it. You don't want to kill it this time. You want it to run away. And like the fire will make it run away more than anything. And so it does. Yes. It rips a hole in the side of the wall and just dives right back through to the upside down. And they yell through the radio, hey, it flipped.
And Jonathan and Steve are now...
No, Dustin.
No, Steve. I'm sorry. Dustin and Steve are now tracking it. They're in pursuit. And Jonathan and Nancy hop in the car too. So they're in the back seat with them, and they're just plowing through people's yards. They're just like going on whatever course it's taking them. Streets are not relevant anymore.
Nope, like, not in this case.
It's pretty crazy. And then we see back in the barn with Erica, Robin, Will, and Joyce. Well, they're hearing delightful Derek has risen. He is now waking up and freaking out, which honestly, that is pretty rational in that moment. Pretty sure I'd be freaking out as well. And Will is saying, listen, guys, I don't think that matters anymore because Vecna knows where we are. Like, he's getting the tingles and he knows Vecna's onto them, which I say, yeah, kind of like what we talked about in that earlier episode with Max and 11, where Eric, you were pointing out, like, Vecna's whole thing is kind of getting into people's minds. Like, you can't really hide from him. Like, that's kind of the whole deal. So, yeah. That's and that is really where we leave the Hawkins group, and that is almost at the end of this episode, but we want to now circle back to talk about what's specifically happening also with Henry and Holly.
So as we pick up with Holly and Henry, Holly is essentially eating breakfast, and Henry is at this table with all sorts of food laid out, and he's talking about the Holly's parents, and she's obviously concerned about her parents, and he's saying, listen, they're in the best hands possible, and as soon as they're healed, they'll be here. But in the meantime, you know, he wants to make sure that she knows that other people will be coming. She's going to bring some of her other friends there as well, and soon we'll have Derek here. And she is like, oh, man, Derek. And he's like, listen, should I let the monsters eat him? No, you can't do that. He's like, okay, how about if I tell him that if he hurts you in any way, he can go back and deal with the monsters all by himself. And Holly is very okay with this situation. So they decide, okay, Henry's got to go. Oh, he's also talked to her about how he brought her blackberries for this breakfast and how she knows they were her favorite. And he's like, she's asking, how did you know that they were my favorite? And he's like, it's just a hunch. I'm just real good with hunches. You know, one of those, you know, Vecna-y mind reading things, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, Holly is then walking with Henry outside the house down to the end of like the driveway area. And he is then going to explain to her, listen, I have to go. You can do whatever you'd like here. Stay here. Have whatever you want. But just understand, you cannot go into the woods. Mm-hmm. Is that where the monsters are? Yes, that's where the monsters are. You cannot go into the woods. Promise me you won't do
Foreshadowing.
that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. and he says, also, could you grab my mail? And in the mail is this obvious gift that Holly has been hoping for. It was like a Tiffany tape and
cassette.
Like a boom box. So she's saying, how did you know? And it's like, oh, it's just a hunch.
That's a lot of hunches.
Yes. So she's bringing in the mail. He is leaving for the day. And then we leave this storyline and come back to a fashion show where she is trying on all sorts of dresses, which I know there's some sort of correlation here to the play, but I'm going to ignore that completely. I'm sure Amanda has insight
really?
on. Yeah, something about one of the dresses is one of the ones that somebody wore back in time, and there's something connected there. But again, we've talked about the play. I disregard.
The play, nope. I think we might need to do a deep dive into the play.
No,
but it's
the play
more
is its
of
own thing.
What I think that it's interesting to learn more about Henry's life. I do think that backstory would be cool to know more about.
I think one of the dresses might have been the sister's dress, and we might have seen it when, like, in one of the Creel flashbacks from before, but in all honesty, there was something about some of those dresses being represented in the play. That being said, to me, the bigger thing is she picks out this bright blue dress that she really likes, and she ends up finding a Boy Scout bandana that is part of Henry's Boy Scout collection, and she puts the bandana on. And then essentially she she's wearing boots, she's got a blue dress, she's got the bandana, and then there's this banging
Alice in Wonderland a little bit.
I have a different,
the dress reminded me of Alice in Wonderland. I don't know,
I have a different vibe, but we'll go to that in a second. But she's banging on the door. There's somebody banging on the front door, and she's yelling Henry. She's yelling to see if it's Derek. It is neither of these things. That person eventually goes away, and Holly slowly approaches the door, goes outside to find absolutely nobody there. But the flag is up on the mailbox. So she goes down to the mailbox, opens it up, and there's a letter, and it says, I need your help. Meet me at the X, Henry. And the X is this map that is straight through the woods, all to this like rock feature. And she's like, well, he told me not to go through the woods, but now he says he needs my help. And there's this like there's this map to get there. Maybe I should do this. So Holly decides to go back into the house. She kind of thinks about it inside the house for a little while, but then settles on, gotta go do it. She goes up to that Boy Scout,
box.
Box?
It's like a trunk.
Thank you, trunk. That's the word I was looking for. I was going to say case, but goes up to the trunk, grabs like a satchel of things and puts this this like brown cape on.
The cloak. Yes.
And then grabs the telescope. And to me, at this moment, I think she has completely mimicked the Holly the Heroic figure.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's like, true. Right.
This is
she's becoming her.
She is like visually becoming Holly the Heroic.
For sure. No,
like the blue dress and the red like handkerchief, and now when you throw the cape on top of it, it's like, this is Holly the Heroic. This is who we are.
Yeah, she's trying to summon that energy because she's like kind of been questioning like, what should I do?
Yes.
What would Holly the Heroic do in this moment? Eric, I also love, listen, and we come back to this too later in this season where there's more children at this house. everyone, I'm a little bit stunned by the fact that she's baking a cake, she's dancing around, listening to music, trying on clothes, doesn't seem like scared at all. I don't care how cool the house is. It seems a little bit far-fetched. I just feel like any child would be more nervous and not just this strange man is telling me everything's all good.
I think to me it goes to show the amount of trust that she has in Mr. What's-It. That she truly believes in Henry, and he is a trusted friend of hers. He is not a kidnapper.
That's true.
And so, and so that's the scary part of it all, right? Like he has built this up over time, and we know that she's been talking with him for a long time. And
that's right.
Now when he does remove her, it's all good. So,
and there was a flash earlier too where we saw Derek saw Henry in his classroom.
Oh, we did not mention that.
To mention that.
That was
like
all.
He just turned around.
So that was all part of the very beginning of this whole thing. Like we do see a moment where Derek does see Henry in the classroom.
So maybe he's been seeing him for a while too.
It's plausible that Mr. What's-It has been seeing all of these children. But for the time being, Holly decides, you know what? He sent me the letter. I've got to do my heroic thing. Let's go through the woods. And so now we track Holly as she travels through the woods all the way through. And we get this sequence where we're seeing the map kind of transposed on the screen while Holly is traveling through, and she's seeing these scorpions and other scarier insects. But she gets ultimately to the other side, and she finds this big orange rock wall, and she is peering into it with her telescope that she brought from the Cub Scout trunk. And she's looking through, and there's this big crack running right down the middle of the wall. And so she kind of goes up to it and she yells, "Hello, Henry, are you there?" And then we see like a quick flash of movement inside the crack, which is enough to scare Holly away. And she runs back into the woods and goes back not super far, but far enough to find this rock edge that she can kind of jump into and hide behind this wall while we slowly see these feet walking after her. And they arrive at the top of the wall, and we see Holly peering up, and it is Max.
Yeah!
And this is how our story ends today.
Yeah, I like how Max, it's kind of an 11 move. She's just like, "Hi." And that's how the episode ends. Yeah. Oh, man. Eric, so I had this moment with the wall, too, where I was thinking, are they drawing a parallel between that wall and the wall in the Upside Down?
Yeah, I think so.
I never really made that connection.
I think so. I think for sure. Like, we've now come across two separate walls. Now, I will say this wall clearly has a top to it. We can see the sky over it.
Right.
The Upside Down wall, I'm not saying they're the same, but there are parallels here to walls. And because we can see over the top of this wall, the wall in the Upside Down seems to go on into the clouds, unending. So these are not necessarily the same walls, but I think the idea that walls are being structures that are having that are literally barriers to get through or get over is a running theme throughout this season.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and we did have that moment too, where Holly, when she's looking through the telescope, at first there was a cap on it, but it has like this shape cut out of it. And that was a little bit of, because we'll see in future episodes where that important. Actually is significant.
Yeah. At this point, it just looks like it's broken, like, because it's been sitting in there for a while, but it is not.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to jump into our IMDb ratings segment of the podcast where we talk about our ratings of this episode versus your ratings as we find them on IMDb. Not to mention we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite characters of this episode. Amanda, do you want to dive in first here?
All right. I am going to go with our little friend Dustin as my least favorite. For this one, I just found it's like, okay.
Are you looking at the spreadsheet? I've already got him typed in. Like, I was like, nah, Dustin, get it. I'm done with you right now.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the outs with Dustin in this moment, but so I picked Dustin as my least favorite, and I picked Will as my favorite. I liked Will having the conversation with Joyce, standing up for himself, really putting his foot down finally. And I'm like, Will, we're making progress, buddy. Like, I just feel like I liked his conversation with Robin too, and just being more open. And I just feel like we're seeing a lot of growth from Will's character, and I'm here for that. So that's, I went with Will.
Listen, I picked the same two characters.
Oh,
okay.
really?
I mean, I feel like this episode kind of lent itself to a very obvious choice. Like, Will is clearly making big strides, not just in his, abilities to like deal with Vecna, but also his personal life, both with Joyce and also with Robin. Like, it's perfect to team him up with both of them. I think all the other characters, for what it's worth, in my opinion, did very good. There were not a lot of characters I didn't like, but I don't know that anybody genuinely stood out. I almost took Murray, even though he had a very small scene, just because I thought, here he is influencing the crowd again today. I could have taken maybe Steve a little bit, or Lucas and Mike kind of fell into the crowd. Dustin, though, was the only one that really jumped out either way. And it's just like, I really disliked Dustin back at the beginning of season 2 when he had Dart. And he kept something from everybody.
Yeah, that was not a good look for
Dustin. Those were bad moments for Dustin. And here Dustin is again keeping something from the group. He's hiding the fact that he's literally been fighting off these other people. And aside from that,
it's a strange thing to hide.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And aside from hiding all that, he's also coming with such a negative energy where we've heard the whole, it's his tone, isn't it? It's not what he says, it's the way that he says it. But he is really diving into how negative a tone can I make for all these things. It's not the Dustin that we know.
No.
This Dustin would have never got over with fans. People would have hated this Dustin from the jump. And anybody that's defending Dustin in this episode, in my opinion, like, you're just thinking of Dustin gone by. Because this Dustin ain't doing it.
Yeah. And he could be so great, too. That's why it's, I think, like, really jarring when it's like, this Dustin is not, this is not where it's at. But you can tell, I do like that, listen, he's our least favorite for a reason. He's obviously distraught. He's pulling that off really well. His acting is on point here.
I'm not. This is not discrediting the actor in any way, shape, or form. No.
But they've made him into a little jackass here a little bit. So,
the abrupt change in Dustin from season 4 to season 5, and I know he's dealing with a lot because he really is dealing with that loss of Eddie, but still, like. It feels as though he's separating from his friends. And I know that won't always be the case this season. But right now it's tough because I usually give Mike a ton of crap, but Mike is the one coming to the table with all sorts of answers and doing great.
Yeah.
He's doing fantastic. So
staying level-headed.
I'm
he's
here for
together.
Mike. I'm here for what Lucas is doing, and Will.
Lucas is great.
Oh
my God, we didn't even talk about the jump that Lucas took over the hole that they cut out in the floor. I think he must have jumped like 10 feet.
Well,
oh my
aside from that, there's a reason why I didn't want to say anything about the jump, because if Lucas can make the jump, you don't think the Demogorgon's just jumping over this hole in the floor?
He would have just like walked over it.
Yeah. Like he jumps it and the Demogorgon decides to step on the like, come on. I don't know. That little far-fetched for some of these things, but you know what? Listen. What isn't? You're trying to catch a Demogorgon. So, well, this is the way you do it.
And the Demogorgon, I don't know if he's always as like logical. I don't know. I think like the Demogorgon is a fighter. He's a beast. I don't know if he's like strategizing.
I don't know. He got hit with that.
At the same time, they do seem pretty smart.
He got hit with that board of nails and still beat Lucas to the bottom of the staircase. So.
Well, yeah, but that's just brute strength, right? Like I don't know if that's as like critical thinking where he jumped over this hole.
But he got hit with that board and then got up and jumped the banister and landed in front of him instead of chasing him down the stairs.
Okay, right. Fair point.
Thank you.
I was trying to explain that away, but
I'm not going to let you do that. That's not happening.
Eric, I'm curious what I don't know if you want me to go first.
No, I can do my rating first.
But
so
I'm curious.
I had a very interesting experience with this one because I really like the trap sequence. I do. As much as of all the like misrepresentation that I just gave it, I do enjoy that. I really like Murray coming in, and anytime he's got a delivery, I'm here for it.
Love Murray.
I like Will stepping up. I like seeing what Holly is up to, although there's still not a lot there for me yet, but having Max come in is great. And I think
love that.
I think I sat at the end of this episode going, hold on a second. What? Like trying to even piece together how this exists. And then
right. That's part of it.
And then like the Will coming into his own here with Joyce and with Robin, I think is very good. So I like all those things. If I didn't mention it, 11 and Hopper, not my favorite segment of this episode. Some of the other things that went along to get them to this point, not always my favorite moments. I'm going to give this, though, a solid 8.5. My average on a Stranger Things episode at this moment is just over an 8.6. So an 8.5 to me feels right. I think I like it. I do like it quite a bit. I don't like it more than average.
Yeah. I was struggling a little bit with my score where I was going to land on this one because I liked it. I just don't feel like as much happened in this episode. Like there wasn't
but they
quite
still,
as much movement. But
they did the planning for the trap and executed the trap. So like
it had to happen. I mean, you have to have, like we've talked about, every season has, the kind of the building episodes where we're developing to where the rest of the story is going to go. You can't have like this huge explosion in every episode, but a lot did still go down. I, really appreciate, again, I'll mention that Joyce finally seems to have woken up a little bit, and Will has, they had that really good conversation. But I also did like, I guess it's a little bit, we don't quite know where the rest of these kids, like where that whole storyline is going to go, but we're building up to that. And we're kind of starting to understand more of where the role that Holly is going to be playing in this story. Love that we have her connecting with Max. I don't know. All of this is to say, though, I'm giving this one an 8.1.
Okay.
I liked it. Definitely, I would say for this season so far, it's my least favorite, but solid episode. And you really, the crawl was your least favorite.
The crawl is still easily the lowest episode. I gave that a really poor rating by my standards because it just felt like I don't know what's happening. Like you were trying to play catch up the whole way. And so that episode really to me was set back. Now you liked it more than most, so so it's not surprising. But I will say I just looked up the IMDb rating. As far as I'm concerned, it could have been anywhere from 8 to 9, like anywhere on that spectrum. And the agreed. IMDb rating by the fans ends up being an 8.5, which is spot on with me. And I think part of that is, I think a lot of people probably really liked it, and a lot of people probably didn't like it as much, and so it kind of lands in the middle. Nobody hated this episode, though. In fact, it is to date the highest rated season 5 episode on IMDb for what we have covered. That does not count, episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But of the 3 we've talked about, it is the highest one for season 5. So
so far, we're going on an upward trend.
We are
with the people.
We are on an upward trend, like 7, 8, 8, 3, 8, 5, and that leaves a lot of wiggle room for this next episode, Sorcerer, which I think is a good one.
Well, we also, Eric, do you remember? I'm sure you do, because it wasn't that long ago that we saw this, but who was actually behind, 11 suspects that Vecna was behind that door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. What are you kidding? So, I mean, the funny thing is, 11 suspects Vecna is behind the door.
I thought that was a weird theory from her.
But it's not a weird theory, because you have to think about the fact that she and and Hopper are not with the rest of the gang.
Yeah, okay.
So from their perspective, from what they know, what else could it be? They haven't found Vecna on any crawl so far. So it makes a ton of sense to them that Vecna is behind that door. Now, the rest of the gang doesn't even know about the base. They don't know about the door. They don't know about any of this stuff. So as far as they're concerned, they're still tracking Vecna. And this is where you have to try to remember the perspective of each of the characters, because they're not all running down the same timeline, or not timeline, but the same story process.
Yeah, sure. But if Vecna was behind the door, then who took Holly?
Well, we know, because we have access to both stories, that, if Vecna's behind the door, how could he also take Holly? And so there's a lot of confusion from our standpoint, because we're seeing a variety of different stories all play out, to the same extent that, if Vecna's behind the door, how can he take Holly? Well, answer me this: how is Max in this world with Holly? She's in a bed as a vegetable right now.
Makes sense.
So I remember at this point specifically, at the end of the show, Max comes, credit rolls, and I'm sitting here going, hold on a second. What are we even doing? Where are we right now? And so on a rewatch, I'm able to compartmentalize a little bit better. On the first watch, I was absolutely just baffled at this point, going, what am I even watching?
Yeah, I think they tried to do a little bit of foreshadowing with the first episode, where we saw Will's story, where he was hooked up to that system that Vecna has with the tentacles, where he's looped into the hive mind. Yeah, I think that was supposed to be some foreshadowing with where these kids are really at, even though we're seeing their bodies in this other
that's location. That's the thing. Right? We were started with that, and we haven't actually seen any connection to that moment and the rest of this story at all yet. But it did remind us that that's how Will got hooked up to this whole thing in the first place.
And it's Creel House is looking awful polished up in this world. Wonder how we got here. Oh yeah, it's not real. So
but these are the things that it's easy to forget, because you haven't seen anything otherwise to prove that. But it seems very unrealistic that this is the case.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why I love the rewatch. I love doing rewatches because I love just when you know how it's going to play out, it all just makes so much more sense watching it again. It's like, oh, that's why this happened. And the pieces just fit so much better together. Sure. So, yeah, love that.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the We Run on Reruns podcast. Please check out our socials, our Instagram, our YouTubes, and all the other social platforms that we're out there on. Repost, share, like, subscribe, do all the fun things that you do on social media. We really appreciate the support that we've seen there so far. If you could check out our website at werunonreruns.com, we've got full episodes of every podcast we do, not to mention that you can find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a million other podcast players that are out there. If you can, leave us 5 stars. We really appreciate that. For Amanda, this is Eric. Enjoy watching Season 5, Episode 4, Chapter 4, Sorcerer, for next week. Happy rerunning, everybody.
See you later, guys.